Fitzpatrick takes the snap, drops back, lobs it back right corner. Decker! He's got it! Touchdown! Eric Decker scores! And the Jets have won it in overtime!
This is the Jet Take with Ben Blessington and Kyle Fahey.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jet Take. I'm your host, Ben Blessington. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Money, Kyle Fahey. Kyle, how you doing, man?
I can't believe I still have the Mr. Money title. That's
it's
that's
really
interesting.
Tradition at this point. It's not,
because before every show, you're like, Kyle, you're just so wrong about everything. You're terrible at what you do.
I think it's almost ironic. It's ironic at this point. You're like Mr. Money because you're just never on the money that any takes. Anyways, welcome back to our show. You can follow us at the Jet Take on Twitter. You can find our podcast really anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just search the Jet Take. Not too much has happened this week. We're now hitting the
Ben's sex life.
Okay, you're just really off to a hot start already.
I am.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
I'm gonna show myself because I'm laughing it out.
All right, he's gonna laugh at his own joke for a bit. Not too much has happened. I guess probably the biggest news is going to be the availability of Robbie Anderson this season. I think Kyle and I had been, getting worried about is he's going to be gone for 1 game, 2 game, 4 games, 6 maybe. Doesn't look like he's going to miss any time at all now. All the felony charges were dropped against him. He now has the 1 misdemeanor for reckless driving, I believe it was, or something like that. So he won't miss any time. He shouldn't miss any time. Can we talk about that
real quick? I mean, the TOJ group chat, it was hilarious. Like Scott and DA, and I think the other Dan, SN. I honestly don't know how to say his last name. Sorry, Dan. They were talking about, this felony's dropped, and then Scott was like, is the other felony dropped? And DA was like, yeah, both felonies are dropped. He still has a couple misdemeanors though that will probably get. I was like, how many charges does this guy have on him? We're just like. That felony, those misdemeanors in the previous event from the other year.
He's definitely not great off the field, but he is a terrific young wide receiver for the Jets. Only just turned 25 a few days ago, last week.
He's old. I did not know he was that old.
He just turned 25, and he was 24 until like 7 days ago. So
yeah, I thought he was like 22, 23. Like
pretty young. I mean, his first year is 2016, so he would have been 23.
25 is old now. That's old.
Actually, no, he would have been 22. Yeah, he was a 22-year-old rookie, and 23 and 27. Wait, I did my math wrong.
Ooh.
2016, sorry. Okay, 23 to 24, and now 25.
Hot takes and no arithmetic.
Oh, come on. It's fine. Anyways, but, 25 isn't that old. He has I think he has 2 years left on his deal, whatnot, but he definitely needs to prove himself this year, give himself another year on the field of just showing production and hopefully improvement. But we're going to be talking about Robbie Anderson and some of the other Jets weapons in a bit. Besides Robbie, I can't really think of any notable headlines. The only thing I'd like to bring up before we just kind of hop into some topics and callers and get through this is the article that was released today, and I don't know if you had a chance to read it, Kyle, by Albert Breer.
Yeah, I didn't read it. Everybody was saying it was really good, and that kind of pushed me away from it.
Okay, well, now it's going to be good to have a discussion with. Well, I mean,
I know it was about getting the Colts pick and Brian.
No, it wasn't necessarily. I'll explain. For those who haven't read it, I really recommend you go. We tweeted out, we quote tweeted it, and you can find it on SportsIllustrated.com, written by Albert Breer, and it's almost like a love story, 3 years in the making, just about the Jets process, or just about the Jets.
Like my love life.
That's like 17 years in the making. But it's really about the Jets' process from 3 years ago to drafting Sam Darnold. And just kind of they got lucky and just kind of how blown away they were. So I really recommend everybody go check that out. But the only reason I bring it up is I kind of wanted to talk to you, Kyle, about this just to kind of kick off our show because we have no topics. It's really just about the culture change that's happened under Maccagnan. And I think Maccagnan gets a lot of blowback from some fans because, the Hackenberg pick, the Devin Smith pick wasn't great. He's had some rough picks. And really, you look at it, he hasn't picked too many starters. I mean, he has Adams, May, he has Adams, May, Leonard Williams, Lack Edwards, Brandon Shell, and
Sam Darnold.
Darren Lee. Well, we're not counting those guys. And Darren Lee. And I'm trying to think of picks he's had that have been relatively good. He's only had a few good picks. Jordan Jenkins is one of them. But he's had plenty of misses, as I mentioned. The Devin Smiths, the Lorenzo Maldens, the Dylan Donahues. The list goes.
Why are we grouping Devin Smith with Dylan Donahue?
Because Devin Smith is a second-round pick, and
Devin Smith is a good talent who deserved to be picked in the second round. It's not Maccagnan's fault that the kid can't stay healthy.
Yeah, and but there are plenty. There are plenty of guys who were. Blake Bortles was supposed to be a first round. Well, I guess he was a bit of a reach. That was kind of a dumb.
Yeah.
But, there are plenty of guys who are picked where they're valued by the consensus that don't go to be good, and it still falls on the GM's back. My point is, and look, Kyle, I know you're a big Devin Smith guy, but it wasn't like before he got hurt that he was lighting it up. Now I'm not saying that injuries didn't derail his career. I know he was hurt during the offseason and whatnot, but let's not act. It all worked out for the Jets because Robbie Anderson is the exact player, and probably even more that they wanted Devin Smith to be. So it was really it evened out. Maccagnan took this guy in the second, he busted, and now you have this guy in the don't make a joke. And now you have an undrafted free agent that you signed, and he turns out to be even better than the second round pick.
Ben saw that coming from a mile away.
Devin Smith is still in the roster, so he can still make it. Anyways, my point was I kind of just wanted to ask you about the culture change and just your thoughts on the difference, from when Maccagnan took over the job and, following the 2014 season to now, and how far he's come and how far you think he's going to go. Because if I recall, you weren't a huge Maccagnan fan, and I guess we can kind of lump Bowles into this.
That's false.
All right, my apologies. Well, I'm just saying, I remember the Fire Bowles, and I guess that's two different guys. But the whole regime, I guess we'll lump Bowles in here, and you can separate when you talk about it. But just kind of about this culture change and your thoughts on it, and do you think these men are the right guys to lead the Jets for the next 5 years? And these next 5 years are arguably, we throw this out all the time, the most important. Everything that's ahead of us, I guess, is the most important thing from the franchise to date. But these next 5 years are very important for the Jets to get this right, because this is your prime opportunity to build a winner. Because you have the most important player on your team on a rookie deal. So you have the salary cap to build around him and get a good team formed around him. Just look at the Seahawks from what they did from 2012 to, even I guess recently now is when they've started to fall off because now Russell Wilson's making, $25 million a year. Anyways, Kyle, your thoughts on the Jets culture change. Just your overall opinion on it. Where it's going and whatnot. And then you could talk to a little bit, do you think these guys are the right guys to lead the Jets? I guess that one probably shifts more to Bowles because he's probably the one who receives more criticism. Just your overall thoughts on the leaders of the New York Jets.
I think the culture change is real, if that's the question at hand. I think the guys leading it on the field, Adams, Leo, now Sam Darnold, some of the non-vocal guys like Marcus May, and at least non-vocal in, I guess, a personal aspect, because obviously Darren is quite vocal on Twitter and does a couple interviews, but you know what I mean. The culture change is real. There are guys pushing who want to be winners. They love the doubters. They're vocal about it on social media. They're bringing change not only on the field, but within the organization in regards to jerseys, trying to create influence on social media with players we were trying to sign, getting behind fans' opinions. That's something that we didn't see circa 2016, basically. So yeah. This is a very clear culture change, and I think it happens to be a part of the younger generation of players getting in there. I wouldn't expect that from a core led by Ryan Fitzpatrick. I would expect that from a core led by Jamal Adams, because just two different people, and at the time the faces of the franchise in their specific years. Obviously, Adams going to be the face a lot longer than Fitzpatrick was, but I think the culture change is absolutely real. I think the guys up top calling the shots are the right people to do it. I've always had faith in Maccagnan. I think he's done a good job getting out of contract, signing decent players, getting good value for them, and I think we've seen that this year and then the waiver wire, the way he's been navigating that with ASJ, now Antonio Garcia, guys we've gotten in the past.
That was the one piece of news, I apologize, that I forgot to mention. But we'll talk about that in a second. I had it in my notes to bring it up as a topic, but should have kicked off with that. My apologies. Keep going.
Yeah, kind of lost my train of thought. But overall, I just think Maccagnan's done a good job. I think Bowles, it's still out on him. I was pushing the Fire Bowles bandwagon for solid 2 or 3 years, but he has proven that he has respect in this locker room. And I think respect is the hardest thing to earn in this league on a personal scale from players. You look at Rex Ryan. They loved Rex Ryan. Did they respect him at the end of the day? I don't think so, because they know they could walk into that locker room and push him around like it was nothing and get away with a lot of dumb things. I don't think Todd Bowles puts up with that. And I think players respect him for it. And he obviously has it mentally as a defensive coordinator. It's just a matter of him growing accustomed to the head coaching position. I know we've been saying that for the past 3.5 years now, but I think he is starting to put the pieces together, and it was just going to take a little time. And it might work out for us. It really might. And we might have one of the next best NFL head coaches that we basically got under the radar. But, until that time comes, I'm not going to say he's the right guy to lead us, but I have all faith in Maccagnan. I think he's done an excellent job so far. Has he had some hiccups? Absolutely. Do I hate Christian Hackenberg? Every ounce of blood in my body. But, I have faith.
Yeah, and I think it really comes down to, and this isn't necessarily doesn't always accurately depict a culture, but it's fun to be a Jets fan right now.
Oh, lies.
No, I mean, seriously. I mean, I know you're saying that jokingly because the Jets are just
it's not fun to be a Jets fan, like at all.
I'm saying right now, Kyle, I mean, you know what I'm saying. I know you're trying to make a joke about the Jets sucking, but I mean, that probably goes more to my point, is that the Jets are historic losers. And, okay, they have – if you read that article, and that was kind of the biggest thing I took away, it was really the first time that I've seen any sort of layer of not just – I mean, when I look for the Jets to do during the offseason, I'm always just wanting them to be competent. This was really one of the first times I can recall the Jets not just being competent, but being ahead of the curve, doing things that other teams weren't doing in a positive way, not in a negative way. Doing things that other teams and next year are going to look, that need quarterbacks or whatever, are going to look to copy and replicate, which is something the Jets haven't really had too much of in their franchise history. So they have a front office and a regime that seems, or I shouldn't even say seems, that is in control, knows what they're doing, has a plan, has a very good plan. I mean, Maccagnan knew what he was doing for this year back in July. And he had he looked at the Sheldon Richardson trade not as just getting a second-round pick. He knew that was going to be ammunition to trade out for a quarterback because they didn't lose enough games. I mean, the Jets had a plan, and that was something that I hadn't seen in a while. The Jets have a young franchise quarterback. Yes, they got a little lucky, but they have a young franchise quarterback to cheer of that they actually went up and got. They spent a first-round pick on him. They not only spent a first-round pick, but they traded up to get him, enough with taking guys in the second round or signing guys, and not to crap on Teddy Bridgewater, but signing a guy like Teddy Bridgewater and hoping he's the starter. I mean, when you come from the regime, the franchise quarterback, some of the guys they've taken, I think you pointed to the uniforms, and that's just a small footnote. But guys like Jamal Adams and even Darren Lee, off the field and on the field, hyping the team up, and you're creating a culture that's different than the Jets that I've been used to seeing in my life of them being gassed on a 70-yard touchdown run or missing. I guess they haven't missed too many last-second field goals, but choking in the last minute to Brady or whatnot. It just seems like the Jets, the arrow's pointing up on them, and that's something you haven't really been able to say. I mean, you could say it last year. Okay, well, the arrow's pointing up. They're heading in the right direction. But I think we're starting to see the fruits of all this losing. They're starting to actually show some progress. And I shouldn't say that until these things translate into wins, but I'm just talking about what they've been able to do this offseason. I've been very happy with it. I've said this throughout the offseason. Last offseason was the blow-it-up stage. You got rid of everybody. You dropped all your vets, and you blew it up. This offseason was getting the quarterback and continuing to refurbish that core. And next offseason is going to be building around that quarterback and really finalizing your core. So that's why I think 2019 is the year you're going to see the Jets make the playoffs. The Jets might not make the playoffs this year. I actually think they're going to make a bit of a run. And that's not, maybe that's just me seeing it through, green goggles. But I have a feeling that the Jets are going to have some success, whether, maybe they fall short and finish 8-8, 9-7, they don't make the playoffs. But, if it seemed like the Bills, who were pretty much god-awful last year, I mean, I know they had their moments, but, I mean, they really got in because the Bengals, pulled some pretty amazing, or really I should say that the Ravens' lack of competence really got the Bills in. It's like the AFC's relatively weak. I like where the Jets are heading. But, yeah, I think the biggest thing right now for me is Todd Bowles, the right guy to lead the Jets. And, we've been fortunate to have the opportunity to speak to some players and whatnot. And that's not just a minor flex or whatever. But in talking with them, and even if you don't speak to players, even if you just read what they're saying about him, I think, Kyle, your point is that they do respect him. And I think that's the biggest thing is a lot of these guys not only like the guy, because, people love Drex Ryan, but they respect Bowles. And I think that's important going forward. Whether or not he can clean up some of these clock management issues, that's going to be another thing. And whether or not, he's going to be able to show more competence on the field. I mean, because I think your front office is showing that they're really killing it. Yeah, they've missed on a few picks or whatnot, but these past 2 drafts I've really, really, really liked. On the field, though, coaching, we've really yet to see that from Coach Bowles and his side of the football. The offense have shown some signs of life, and I like that. Jeremy Bates is running things down. I'm talking about coaching. I'm not just talking on the plays. But I liked, John Morton did some good things last year. I thought he got creative with the lack of talent he had. I like Jeremy Bates. I mean, he's, theoretically the next, kind of Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, young, up-and-coming offensive coordinator that will someday be a head coach. So I like him as our offensive coordinator. The defense I'm a little more worried about, even though there's arguably more talent there. We haven't really seen too much from, Rodgers and Bowles as a duo. I mean, I know you're actually a big fan. You were talking last week. You think they should be a top 10 defense this year. I don't know if I necessarily see it, but yeah, I think the addition of Tremaine Johnson is going to be probably the biggest addition outside of Sam Darnold during Bowles' tenure. I think having a shutdown corner, and he's not Revis Island, but he is a top 10 corner. Having a top 10 corner on this Bulls defense elevates it even that much more. I mean, you saw in 2015, the first half of it, when Revis was playing really well. I mean, think about how well that defense is playing. 2015's defense kind of fell off towards the end when Revis started to show signs of age, and really in 2016 and 2017. But at times when Morris Claiborne was playing well last year, you saw the defense playing at a peak. It really seems that Todd Bowles' defense comes down to his secondary. He got his safety duo. First and second round picks 2017. He knew the 2 most important, positions on his defense. Now he's got his corner. Morris Claiborne slides to the, number 2. I don't love Buster Skrine as a slot corner, but as far as if he's only playing slot, he's probably an average, okay corner. I'm hoping a guy like Nickerson or Xavier Coleman or one of the guys we drafted last year, Jeremy Clark or Derek, just somebody can, step up. But I like Skrine and whatnot. But anyways, Kyle, let's go ahead and get some callers and talk about some other things. I just kind of wanted to open up talking about the new culture, because as I said, it's for one of the first times in my brief Jets fan. I mean, it's actually been fun to be a Jets fan this offseason. Let's hope that translates to some wins. So I guess we're going to open up with Paulie. And we talked to him a bit before the show, but Paulie, hey, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
We're good, as we were just saying. I mean, it's good. It's for one of the few times it's actually good in the world of the New York Jets. Now, Paulie, I believe the last time we had you on the show, if I'm not mistaken, was before the draft, right?
This is correct. This is correct.
And you were, if I recall, you weren't a huge Darnold fan, and you were more like me, where we were big Rosen guys or whatnot. But to be fair, I would assume that you were probably in the same boat, that none of us really thought Darnold wasn't going to get to 3. Have you kind of changed tune on him as you've presumably watched a little bit more of him, or now that he's the Jets quarterback? It's been a while. So what are your thoughts on Sam being the face of the franchise for the New York Jets?
Well, yeah, like you said, I basically had talked myself out of him during the whole process, because I thought for sure he was going first overall. So I had him labeled as QB3. I think it was maybe a little foolish of me to do so, because I was so sold on Rosen. But, I couldn't be happier with the way it turned out. Like you guys were talking about earlier, the article from Albert Breer, they really did their homework. They were enamored with Darnold. Like we've said for about a year and a half now, it seems like the organization actually has a plan. Based on that article, it looks like they certainly did. So, like you said, it's a good time to be a Jets fan right now. I'm definitely skeptical, hoping for the best. But I'm happy how it turned out. I was a little nervous, when obviously when we took down, because I thought, oh my God, that Rosen was going to go to the Bills. But then the Bills took Allen, and I was thrilled as along with everybody else. And then when the Cardinals turned above the Dolphins, I stood up and fist bumped and was really happy. So, like I said, was I mad we drafted Darnold? No. But was I shocked? Absolutely. And as I've gotten, read some articles, settled in, I couldn't be happier with the direction that the Jets are headed.
Yeah.
I love the tweet by the Bills where it shows Josh Allen in their uniform, and they're just the fire emoji, and I was laughing so hard. I hate Buffalo. I hate people from Buffalo. I can't wait to see them fail for the next 4 years with Josh Allen. Oh, it is fun being a Jets fan.
One of those Josh Allen's good, and everybody. I mean, I'm not a Josh Allen fan, but I mean, do we have to delete the show, Kyle?
I might have to delete my life if he's good, because it just wouldn't make sense.
Anyway,
listen, as long as Darnold's good, I couldn't care less what they do. So
exactly.
they've been. Listen, where I live, it's literally all Bills and Giants fans, and there's a few Jets fans sprinkled in. So I don't see. To me, Bills and Dolphins are a bigger rival than me. They always have been. Than the Patriots in the division. It's just always how it's been for me. I don't. I mean, yes, yeah. Do I just like the Patriots? Absolutely, but they're not as big a rival to me as the Dolphins are, or as the Bills are. They never have been.
Yeah, and Paulie, you're talking about Darnold. I wanted to know, I mean, do you think the Jets have done enough to surround him in his weapons that he has this offseason? I mean, I understand that this really wasn't, as we said, the offseason where the Jets were going to build around him. This was the offseason to get the quarterback. The Jets have a Nuno returning. It doesn't seem like Robbie Anderson is going to miss much time. They brought in Terrell Pryor. They kind of revamped the tight end position. I liked Austin Seferian-Jenkins, but he went to Jacksonville. The Jets drafted Chris Herndon. Leggett's coming back. They added Thomas Rawls. Do you think the Jets have done, and I guess I should throw in Dimitri Flowers, an undrafted free agent, because he actually seemed to have a bit of an impact on Oklahoma's passing game as well. So do you think the Jets have done enough to surround Darnold for this year and set him up for success, or do you think it's one of those scenarios where, he's going to trot out there behind this Jets offensive line that's not very strong? He has some weapons, but not amazing weapons, and, it's really going to hurt his development, or do you think this is going to be one of those things where, the Jets have a pretty good, core of weapons, and Darnold's going to play well, and it shouldn't hurt his development? I guess this kind of goes to the point is, do you let him sit and learn, or do you throw him in week one type of thing? But do you think the Jets have done enough to set him up for success?
All right, well, first things first. Darnold, if he outplays McCown, he should be starting. That's the sitting and learning thing. No, if he shows in camp and he shows in preseason he could play, he should be starting week one. Now, as far as the weapons, I'm just so sick of the lazy takes that you get from some of these sports writers who I don't even know if they're writers or whatever, but they're associated with whatever, and they go, oh, well, who's going to throw to? We've been doing the same thing for the Jets for the last 5 or 6 years. Okay, Nuno is a very good player. He missed all of last year. Robbie Anderson, very good in defending player. Terrell Pryor, if healthy, is going to be a solid number 3 or number 4. And then you got Jermaine Kearse, who almost had 1,000 yards last year, but of course, the Jets have no weapons. Who are they going to throw the ball to? The running back position is a little, iffy. I think Crowell is going to obviously be the starter, but we're not going to know how that's going to play out until we're in games with the running back position. I do hope a player like Dimitri Flowers steps out because, in all honesty, if they're going to run with a fullback, you'd have to think he has a leg up over Lawrence Thomas, who's obviously, in year 2 of a transition in the position. And Flowers is a very good player, who I thought should have been drafted. So I thought that the Jets did very well with signing him. But this farce that the Jets don't have weapons is just an old, boring, lazy take. And I think, is the Jets, offensive weapons elite? No. But are they NFL caliber?
Is Joe Flacco elite?
Right, absolutely not. But, that's the thing. There's ascending players with the who missed last year. You got Robbie, who's going to be on the field. So, the Jets have weapons. It's not Clyde Gates and Chaz Schillings. Come on now. Let's be serious. That's what we rolled out there with rookie quarterbacks before. So
don't hate on Clyde Gates.
I just think that it's time for the Jets to move in a positive direction, and I think that with Sam Darnold and what is currently here, I mean, the Jets aren't going to the playoffs this year. Let's be honest. I mean, people are thinking that. I mean, God bless them. But the main goal for this season, and I said this on I co-hosted a show on local ESPN this past weekend. I said that the record is irrelevant to me if Sam Darnold starts week 1. If Sam Darnold starts week 1, the only thing that matters is Sam Darnold from week 1 to week 17. In those 16 games that we play, what is he going from week 1 to that final start? And that's all that this season matters about. That's all that matters this season.
Paulie, I've been tasked with asking you a question, so I gotta ask: what's it like being a celebrity who works for ESPN now?
I don't work for ESPN. It's just I happen to know a couple people that asked me to come on, and it looks like they're gonna have me back, a little bit during football season. But it was a really cool experience. It was the first time being on, actual at a radio studio live and going through the motions. So it was a little nerve-wracking in the beginning, but I settled right in, and I couldn't be more thankful for them, giving me a little time to, just drop some knowledge on it and be a part of it. So.
And now you know how we feel before every episode. Do you think you can handle it for a whole season?
I think so.
All right.
Paulie, it was great having you on the show, man. For those who aren't following you, just give out your Twitter and your social media so our listeners can.
I think everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're pretty famous on Jets Twitter, so I would assume most of our listeners are following you. But
first things first. Twitter handle is at Paulie Paulie _BRUZ. But I also have, not really an announcement right now, but there's some things coming out soon, and you're probably going to be hearing from me.
Are you pregnant?
In the next coming months. No, I'm not pregnant. But
okay.
You're going to be hearing from me, and I'm going to be doing some things that I'm excited about. It looks like just got to cross some T's, circle some O's, and put a dot over the lowercase J's. But I'll be doing something soon, and I'll be announcing that shortly.
Oh, I think I know what it is.
All right, well, we're looking forward to it. Paulie, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, guys, have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Kind of sounded like he was going the wrong way in the Lincoln Tunnel throughout.
Yeah, we will apologize if there's any sort of audio issues with listening to Paulie. I understand if it was a little muffled, but he obviously, I can still hear him. Obviously,
we got most of it.
One of the most, super knowledgeable callers, Kyle mentioned. He was on the ESPN radio show this week or something?
Yeah, he's going to be doing that through most of the season, too.
That's pretty cool. All right, we're going to go to our next caller. This is Michael Palace. Michael, some interesting news dropped this week about your boy Robbie Anderson. I do remember you saying you wanted to cut him.
I did, but that was based on the charges.
Well, the charges were dropped, Michael. Do you rescind? Do you say that you were wrong? Will you admit that you were wrong, that the Jets should not have cut Robbie Anderson 2 months ago?
I will not admit that I was wrong 2 months ago, but I will not continue to say they should cut him.
That was a politician's answer right there.
He got you there. That was Michael, do you think the cop's wife can see it? Do you think she's got all that stuff out of her eye?
Okay. Oh, my God. Kyle, Jesus. A little graphic. Michael, I want to ask you about...
she can't see very well, so it's not very graphic.
Okay. Oh, my God. Please. Oh my God. Before you derail the show. Michael, just two things I want to talk with you about. We'll start with one, the Jets signing former Patriots third-round pick Antonio Garcia, who was they picked out of Troy, I believe, last year. Had third-round pick, had some blood clots in his lung, I believe. Lost some weight or whatnot. Patriots cut him. The Jets signed him. He was a pretty good prospect and one that I'm curious to see, or I'm happy that the McCagnon at least signed him, took a flyer. If he's healthy, he could potentially be a starter on this offensive line. Michael, just what are your thoughts on that?
I'll be honest, I didn't really look into it at all, much.
Wow. Politicians.
Mostly because I don't think he's going to make the team.
Yeah, that's
for health reasons, not for talent reasons.
All right, I will concede you that. Michael, the other person that could potentially be signed in the next week was Kenny Vaccaro, who visited the team, I believe, today. He also visited, I don't want to mess this up, I believe, what was it, Kyle?
The Colts.
The Colts, right? And the Dolphins, I believe, yeah. Michael, what are your thoughts on the Jets potentially bringing him in as that third safety? Kind of, obviously Todd Bowles loves his DBs. Just your thoughts on the Jets potentially bringing in a guy like Vaccaro, potentially allowing more plays with Jamal Adams at the line of scrimmage and whatnot. Just your overall opinion on that.
I would like the signing, especially if immediately after they sign him, they cut Screen.
Well, I don't think those correlate.
Yeah, Screen's a corner.
Yeah. But Vaccaro could play some of the slot cornerback.
He probably played more of a rover linebacker in a dime package.
Or they could use May or Adams in the slot also.
But
it sounds like you're losing games.
But I think they're not gonna. I think they're probably gonna cut Screen anyway because of Nickerson and not Vaccaro.
So here's the thing on that. I agree in the sense that I'm not a huge Screen backer. Just really ask anybody. But
he commits too many penalties.
Don't ask Kyle Smith.
Well, but my point is you look at the Jets' cornerback depth, and it's probably one of the weakest areas of the team that's not being talked about. You have Johnson and you have Claiborne, and outside of that, you have a lot of question marks. Screen is at least a guy that's been here before. He's the longest tenured Jet corner, so he's been in. Bad. Yeah, he's been in Todd Bowles' system. He knows how to do it. He's had marginal success. I understand he's on a big contract, and it would make sense to cut him in February or March, and then you can go out and sign a guy like Tyrann Mathieu or even another corner. But at this point, look, I'll take Buster Screen over Justin Burris, I guess, if it came to that. Screen's cap's not going to really do anything for the Jets at this point in the offseason, so I might as well keep him for the depth purposes. But I agree with you that I'm hoping by the end of the season that a guy like Perry Nickerson is starting over Screen, but I don't think you're going to see Screen get the axe. You could see something like what happened with Demario Davis in 2015, where he was just kind of slowly faded out until the end of the year and he wasn't even playing. A guy like Aaron Henderson was playing over him, but they didn't cut Demario until after the year. So I think you could see Screen playing hopefully in a perfect world, playing more of the fourth or fifth corner on the team. But
less
right
than
now,
half of the snaps.
Yeah, but at that point, then why do you cut him? You just keep him for insurance. Morris Claiborne has some health issues. There are a lot of guys. You have a lot of question marks at this corner position. So might as well bring in a guy who's been fairly durable, has played under Bulls for a long time, and brings you some continuity and familiarity. Michael, so we want to talk about. We got to plug our boss man here. Joe Caparoso.
I've been plugging him a lot this week, actually, on Twitter, so I don't mind.
Well, that's good to hear.
I've been
Joe
plugging
Caparoso
him behind the scenes.
I've been retweeting a lot of his stuff, especially when it comes to Darnold.
All right, well, we like it. Anything to support the brand, and we'll ask some of our.
Ben, did you hear that?
Yes, I heard it.
Okay.
We'll keep asking this to some of our the callers that come after you. But he wrote an article and he released his top 12 Jets players. You can check it out at turnonthe.jets.com. I'm going to read them to you 1 to 12, and I want you to tell me if you agree.
For 2018?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't an all-time list.
Oh, sorry, yes, sorry. For 2018, I should have clarified. Current New York Jets. At number 1, he has Leonard Williams. At number 2, he has Tremaine Johnson. At 3, he has your favorite player, Robbie Anderson. At 4, he has Bilal Powell. At 5, he has Quincy Enunwa. I'll just stop there to make it a little easier to on the memory. Do you have any disagreements so far?
Absolutely.
Where do your disagreements come?
Jamal Adams is not number 2.
So you'd have Jamal over Tremaine Johnson?
Absolutely.
If Ian Eagle did cocaine for like a solid week.
I already I just wrote an article that hasn't been published yet, but I have Jamal Adams as my number 1 Jet under the age of 25 over Leonard Williams. But that's only because Leonard Williams is going to get double teamed this year a lot, and he's not going to be able to produce the numbers we expect. And as far as Jamal Adams is concerned, I already am comparing him in that article, just from a leadership standpoint, to a man who is entering the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2018, a first ballot Hall of Famer in 2018. In fact, Ray Lewis.
Oh. Oh man, we're comparing our best player to a murderer.
No, not to Ray Lewis on the field. The leadership aspect.
I see what he's saying. I mean, he's a culture changer on the field. I mean, you cut back to the dance.
Yeah, he changes a lot of culture.
Okay, jeez. Kyle, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think Jamal Adams deserves to be in the top 5?
Who was the top 5?
You just never... Okay, Leonard Williams...
Ben, you said that like 2 minutes ago. Shut up.
Leo at 1, Tremaine at 2, Robbie at 3, Bilal at 4, Quincy at 5.
Oh, he's way better than Bilal Powell.
All right. I'll read the next 5, and then I'll read the next 5, and then we'll get the last 2. At 6, he has Marcus May. At 7, he has Jamal Adams. At 8, he has James Carpenter. At 9, he has newly signed linebacker Avery Williamson. At 10, he has Steve McClendon. Michael, I'll start with you. Any disagreements there?
Not at all. I might put James Carpenter a little bit higher, but
pretty bad year last year.
He was playing. He was playing hurt for most of the year.
And he's playing next to Wesley Johnson, but I think he's probably slotted right. I mean, when this was released,
it was like one spot higher maybe if I were to do a top 10. But not like super.
What would your top 10 actually? Just for the sake of the argument, what would your top 10 look like?
You put me on the spot here. I didn't even think. I wouldn't even think. Well, first Leonard Williams.
Did you just say Jamal was ahead of him?
No, I said I would put Jamal second. I put him in my list as number 1 of players under 25 for 2018 because the production isn't going to be there for Williams.
I see what you're saying. The potential. Okay, all right.
But
top 10.
Number 2 is Adams. Number 3 would have to be. I have to think about this one.
Or losing listeners.
I guess number 3 would have to be Anderson. So he had Anderson. He had Anderson at 3, right?
Yep.
Number 4, Pryor.
Yep.
Number 5, Darnold.
Pryor.
Yeah. Pryor should definitely be in top 10.
Wait, Terrell Pryor?
Yeah.
Terrell Pryor is going to have
the 4th-string wide receiver is the 4th best player.
He's going to be first of all, he's going to be the number 1 receiver this year.
A borderline top 10 receiver when healthy, done.
And he's going to be going to have 1,000 yards.
Oh my God!
I actually agree with that. Oh
my God! I like Terrell Pryor, but you did not say he's the 4th best player on the team.
Yes, he is.
If he's the 4th best player on the team, our season's. Michael, I like Terrell Pryor. I think he was a nice, low risk, high reward type of player. He had a great season in 2016 for the Browns. But you're telling me right now he's our 4th string wide receiver because Anun was the 1, Anderson's the 2, Kearse is the 3 at the slot.
Well, Anun can't be 1 because he's going to be playing the slot, and the slot receiver's never the number 1 guy.
I mean, Anun will. Kyle, Kyle, I can't tell if you're trolling or you actually agree that.
I'm trolling on one.
Is Terrell Pryor better than Marcus May?
Yes.
Really?
Right now?
Terrell Pryor is a Pro Bowler.
No. Oh my God, Michael.
Wait. Did you hear my number 5 guy?
Who's your 5? What? Sorry, you cut out.
He's gone.
Did you kick him? Oh,
no, he's still there. Heard like a maniacal laughter in the background.
Okay, who is your 5th player, Michael?
Sam. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Sam Darnold.
Okay, Sam Darnold hasn't played. Oh God.
Yeah,
okay.
All right, Michael. That's
all right. Michael, it was great to have you on the show, man. Really quickly, give out your. I'm actually serious because we have quite a few callers in line we have to get through. But that was Terrell Pryor, 4th. We'll tweet that out and see who agrees with that. Michael.
Nobody agrees with me this offseason because I have the Jets beating the Patriots 3 times and winning the division. So,
oh boy,
man, you thought Robbie Anderson.
Honestly, that's less surprising than you having Terrell Pryor as the 4th best player on the team. And I think Terrell Pryor will have a solid season for us. I think 4 or 5 touchdowns would be a pretty nice addition. But 4th best Jet, I mean, you're putting him above. You have him above Quincy. You have him above Marcus May. You have him above James Carpenter. You have him above. I guess you have him above Sam Darnold, I guess. Bilal Powell. I mean, there's quite a few guys you just threw him over there. But
yep.
Morris Claiborne.
I think as far as the running backs are concerned, and the catches from the running backs, Bilal Powell is not going to be getting as many catches as he used to because of Flowers.
You might have to catch these hands.
Michael, please give out your social media and so our listeners can slide you a follow for hot takes like these.
Yeah, M Palace NFL on Twitter and Michael Palace NFL on Facebook.
All right,
Facebook.com/Michael Palace NFL.
Thank you, Michael. I'll give you this. I may not agree with you all the time, but in the dead of the off season,
not just give the Facebook link. You did not just do that.
In the dead of the off season, you give plenty of interesting takes. It's always something to talk about. Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, Terrell Pryor.
Giving a Facebook link may just been the most asinine thing that has ever happened on this show. What the hell?
I don't know what that was, but I mean,
no, I agree that Terrell Pryor is a top 10 player on this team. He'll probably be the best wide receiver.
No, that's just wrong, Kyle. What is that based on?
His Pro Bowl season with Cody Kessler.
Yeah, Kyle, in 2016. I mean, I don't understand. And then he goes to Washington. I mean, and I don't mean to say anything. In 2016, I mean, he had good moments, but it wasn't like he was just consistent. I mean, he would turn it on and then go right back to sleep, and then he'd come on and get a few catches, get a touchdown. I mean, I just don't see a scenario. Okay, that was uncalled for. Look, I like Terrell Pryor, but I don't think he's. Did he make the Pro Bowl in 2016?
Yes, I believe he did.
I don't think he did. No, he did not.
Bullshit.
He did not. Yeah, he did not make the Pro Bowl. Yeah, I mean, it just seems kind of odd to have him in the top 10. I think he's a solid player, and I'm kind of hoping that we're getting the 2016 Pryor, that Washington wasn't the right scenario for him. We get him, and he comes back and returns to form. But I mean, I don't know. What is he? He's got to be 28, 29. How old is he? Terrell Pryor. Hold on, let me do some deep digging research here. Terrell Pryor age, he's 28. I don't know. I mean, you have a young duo in Enunwa and Anderson, and that's probably one of the most exciting things about this year to me. I mean, Darnold's the number one, but that might be number two for me. That might be the second most thing I'm excited for in this season. Ahead of, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing Adams' development and whatnot, and the Jets' defense with Tremaine Johnson. But I mean, seeing Enunwa back, Anderson not suspended, just seeing that young duo of having two guys that the Jets kind of just fell into, 6th-round pick and undrafted, is the thing I'm most excited to see this year. All right, we're going to keep moving with the phone lines. We've got quite a bit, so we're going to have to fly through these. We're going to start with Mike. Mike, you're on the line, man. How's it going?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. I'll start it off the bat here. Mike, do you agree that Terrell Pryor is the 4th best player on this team?
No, and I think people on crack probably shouldn't be on the show. He's a talented guy. He had a great 2016. It would be fantastic if we could recapture that, but there's no way he's 4th best on the team. That's just a crazy thought.
Thank you. I don't know where Kyle is right now because he's just being silent.
I said top 10.
I probably made him sad. I guess he won't talk to me.
I didn't say number 4, Michelson. I said top 10.
I don't even know. I mean, I think he's around there. Well, Mike, I guess I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but do you have kind of your rankings? I guess we can kind of start with the top 5 and break it down. And on this Jets team, I mean, the Jets have kind of redefined their core, but can you give me just at least a top 5 as you have it right now?
Oh, being put on the spot, very exciting.
I know. I apologize. If you need anything,
no, that's okay. Time. No, it makes for good radio and a good podcast. I would. Can I include the rookie quarterback as number 1? I mean, what's the point of having a team if you don't have a quarterback?
I guess. I mean, for the sake, I guess you can. Except the only problem
he's not the best quarterback on the roster.
Oh my God. Well, I mean,
yeah, Darnold's not the best. I mean. Certainly long term. Yeah, you want to look at the window of his production so far? Yeah. If we're having this conversation a year, it'd probably be a surprise if he weren't in the top quarterback on the roster. Yeah, I would put the 2 safeties up there.
So
beyond that, I confess I don't know. We don't have a lot of stars on the team, as you guys are well aware.
So I guess Kyle, I'll turn to you then as far as your top 5 goes. What does that look like?
Oof. Number 1, Leonard Williams. Say what you want about him. I think he's elite. He did have a little bit of a down year last year. I'm not gonna lie, but I think he's still elite. Number 2. This is hard. It's not one of the quarterbacks. I think it could be any one of the three receivers just based on production alone. But I'm going to give a cop-out and say Jamal Adams. And then number 3 would probably be Jermaine Johnson. Number 4, shit, I almost said Terrell Pryor. I almost just caught myself tripping.
But, I mean, do you have Terrell Pryor over Robbie or Quincy?
Yes.
You think Terrell Pryor is a better receiver than Robbie?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So he's your 4th?
4th, I'll go Marcus May. Then 5, yeah, it would probably have to be Terrell Pryor.
Oh, my God. Oh, my. I cannot believe that Terrell Pryor is even cracking your top 10 here. I mean, I don't claim to have all the answers. I mean, I think
that may be more a sign that it's slim pickings.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the frequent pauses and then just saying, all right, I guess Terrell Pryor should prove that. But I mean, I'm going probably, yeah, I think 1, I'll go probably Jamal Adams. Then 2, I'll go Leonard Williams. Then 3, I'll go Jermaine Johnson. Then 4, I'll go Marcus May. And then 5, I'll go Robbie Anderson. That's just how I see it. And that was not a slight at Leonard Williams. And I should add as well that I don't think Jamal Adams. I think Marcus May right now is the better safety than Jamal Adams, and they're both really good safeties. But as far as just what I'm expecting for this year and beyond, I think Jamal Adams is going to be the better safety, so I'll put him at 1. But based off 2017, Marcus May was probably the better safety. We'll move forward. Now, Mike, I don't know how much you've kept up with the Jets this offseason and whatnot. But there's a sign that kind of went under the radar, and I just kind of wanted to talk to you about it. It was Isaiah Crowell, who is probably going to be the Jets' starting running back this next year, but he's not getting much attention whatsoever. Similar kind of back to I guess what Chris Ivory, and it's not just because they have dreads and that they run hard, but I guess Chris Ivory type of running back. Just what are your thoughts on what he's going to bring to the Jets this season, and how do you think he could change the offense and whatnot?
Well, I have to get over my emotional issue because he was a great disappointment to my fantasy team this past year. He just didn't produce. You know, the Browns supposedly had a much better offensive line. He was going to do great, and it didn't happen. So I'm a little bit bitter. You know, apart from that, I think he's a good runner, competent runner. I always thought Bilal Powell was just underrated. He seems to have produced every single time that he's touched the ball. So I'd like to see him get a chance. You need more than one running back these days. So Carl will get carries and Powell will get some carries. But frankly, I'm not sure that Crowell is the one that I'd like to see as the starter, to the extent that's really a designation that matters.
So you rather have Powell out there as your quote-unquote starter?
Yeah, call me crazy if you like, but it seems like he's really produced tremendously every single time he's been out there.
No, I 100% agree with that. I think Powell's better. I think Crowell will be a good change of pace back. What do you see the role for Elijah McGuire?
Whoa, wait.
When someone else gets hurt.
Wait, before we move on, Kyle, how did you say his name?
I said it really weird. Shut up.
Isaiah, how did you pronounce it?
I said Crowell. I was like,
said
it weird.
I think it's what you use to pick it up if your dog poops.
Okay.
What? Wait, no, time out. What? What was that?
It's this word, I believe it's trowel, that scooper kind of thing for picking up dog poop. Come on, you must know that. Everyone knows that.
No, my dog's dead, so.
Oh, my God. All right, Mike, he's not that upset about it, apparently.
It's been a year, actually, May 6th.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, what was your name again?
Don't you feel like a dick?
No, I feel like you exploited it, you lose points for that. But I'm a little sorry.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Mike here. I just remember her panning right into the mic and kind of ruining like half her shows.
Yeah, remember when you said
Sierra, that was her name.
You said, God, when is she going to die? When she had like 2 months to live?
All right.
Yeah.
It was a joke. In poor taste. Mike, I believe Kyle asked you about Elijah McGuire.
Yeah, I think his job is to take a few carries if someone else gets hurt. I don't see him as being one of the main 2 guys. I don't know. Did you guys feel differently? You feel like he's a talented guy that just needs his chance?
Kyle, I'll start with you since you asked the question.
Sorry, I saw a meme. I think he deserves his chance. I think he'll get that in training camp. I think he is buried on the depth chart right now, and I don't think the addition of Trenton Cannon helps him because, that obviously takes away potential snaps that he'll get in training camp. I think he'll remain on the roster, but he'll, like Michael said, he will be, or Mike, as I should say, Mike, sorry. As Mike said, he'll probably be the third guy who will fill in when somebody gets hurt.
Right, or I guess the other thought is, didn't we sign the guy from the Seahawks, Rawls? So if he makes the team and he's healthy enough to play, maybe he's number 3.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was going so if you look at
he's kind of trash, though.
Well, he's played well at times, and it was awful last year, so who knows? A little like Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
maybe he's the 4th best guy in the team.
Oh, I like it. So if you look at the running back position, including the fullback.
Mike, I don't know you, but you're walking a dangerous line. You're lucky I don't know you.
Hey, I'm liking Mike. He's bringing some fire.
I'll be careful. Right. I'll sleep with one eye open.
It's fine. Kyle has baby
mafia connections.
Kyle's like 5'6" and has baby hands. Okay.
That's just fake news. Okay.
So if you look at the running back depth chart, including some fullbacks, you have Isaiah Crowell and Elijah McGuire, which I think would probably be the only 2 locks to make the roster. I mean, I guess I could see a scenario where McGuire doesn't. But for the most part, those guys should make the roster. Then you have Powell, Cannon, and Rawls. And then if you go to the fullback position, you have Thomas versus Flowers. How do you see this all playing out? That's 7 guys I just listed. I mean, including the fullback, the Jets will probably keep 4 to 5, maybe 5, but probably around 4, 3 running backs and a fullback. Maybe they'll keep 4 running backs if Cannon makes the team because of his return abilities. How do you see this all playing out? Do you think the Jets could try to move Powell for some picks? Do you think the Jets make a surprise cut and a guy like, Powell or McGuire? I mean, just how do you see this all shaking out?
Yeah. Well, I guess one way to look at it is who's bringing something different to the table. And I feel like the fullback, seems like he can do everything. He can come out of the backfield, but it seems like he's got amazing hands. I'd love to see him on the team because he's just something different that none of the other guys necessarily can do the same thing. I'm guessing Rawls isn't healthy enough. I feel like McGuire is just a guy, so I feel like those guys are gone. I guess that brings it down to 5, and I forget who else was there was going to go. I feel like I'd like to see Powell stay on the team. I know he's a veteran, so he's expensive. They could change a couple bucks, save a couple bucks, but I think I'd like to see Powell on the team along with Crowell, the fullback, and I guess McGuire may as well stick around if so long as there's no one I'll say worthwhile. But again, he's just a guy as far as I'm concerned.
All right, I like it, Mike. Thank you so much for calling in, man. Do you have a Twitter where our listeners can give you a follow?
Nah, I'm just a guy. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
I like it. Hey,
wow.
I'm a big fan of.
You're lucky. I can't harm you on Twitter. It makes me sound like kryptonite.
If you want, you can harm me all you like. Enjoy whatever makes you happy. Sorry about the dog, guys.
Mike, I love the fire. Please call in again and just really grind Kyle's gears. Mike, thank you so much for calling in, man. I hope to hear from you again in the future.
Take care, guys. Bye bye.
See you. Damn, Kyle, I think you might have just met your match. Kind of just roasted you the entire call. I mean, went after your dog.
Mike is officially an enemy. It's simple as that.
Mike kind of killed that call. All right, we'll keep moving with the callers. We're going to go to Bob. Bob, you're on the line. How's it going, man?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys?
We're good. We're having some fun talking some Jets. I mean, as we've been saying, not too much happening. It's pretty much the dead of the off season, but we're enjoying just talking about whatever.
I think there's a lot to look at and some surprising things, maybe to look for. I got a lot of opinions about it.
Fire away, yeah.
First of all, a lot of I live in Chicago. And I moved out of New York in 1993, so I don't get to watch the team except for the games on Sunday afternoons. And I've really gotten more into them the last 3-4 years because I just finished writing a book about the Jets. But I think the offensive line is going to be surprisingly better than a lot of people feel, and I think that's obviously very key in protecting the quarterback, because that will perhaps allow them to be a little bit more judicious about exactly how long it takes for Darnold to get into the lineup. And I think it'll also help their running game. The big thing about an offensive line is not only having talented players, but having those guys play with each other for an extended period of time. Because the more that you know exactly what the guy next to you is capable or not capable of doing and how you have to adjust to it, the better you personally perform. And so I think as the group, they're going to do a lot better. I think the receivers are pretty good. But the thing that really bothers me about what they haven't done this offseason, and I think everybody's aware of it, is where's the pass rush?
Yep.
You can have a Hall of Fame cornerback. You could have Revis playing at both corners and safety in his prime. And if you give the quarterback time, you're just not going to have a lot of success. And I agree with what I think Mike said a little while ago about how I think Williams is going to get double-teamed quite a bit, and they better get a pass rush from, the outside linebackers and the ends. And it doesn't look to me like, there's certainly that much hope there. There's some promise. These are young guys. They could make giant steps, but that's the biggest worry that I've got. That and the field goal kicking game, because and tight end, because I don't know how they let their tight end go for a difference of $1 million. When you've got what's the NFL payroll limit, like $150 million or something like that?
I think it's 158, something like that. Yeah.
And you're a nickel and diamond, a guy who obviously liked being in New York, enjoyed being a Jet, was a great teammate and a leader, on that club, and you let him go for $1 million. I mean, come on! I mean, with all the other money they're going to spend on guys who are, the 53rd, the 52nd, the 51st, and the 50th player on the team. I mean, come on! It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think that was something Kyle and I were pretty upset with. Bob, I believe you're a first-time caller, so I wanted to get your thoughts on probably the biggest thing that's happened this offseason is the trade to get Darnold. How excited are you for Darnold as a prospect and as the future face of the franchise? You kind of threw it away as a footnote, but I believe you just said you wrote a book on Joe Namath?
No, just the opposite. I wrote a book about everybody else on the Super Bowl team except Joe Namath.
I like it. That's a kind of an interesting way to look at it.
It's called Beyond Broadway Joe.
I want to ask you about that book in a second. We'll finish the Darnold. We'll finish with the Darnold question just because we started it. But when I'm done, I actually have a few questions on that. But focusing on Darnold, I guess that kind of ties in well. Jets have been looking for the franchise quarterback since Namath. What are your thoughts on that, on him, and
Well, first of all, the trade. I found the trade particularly interesting because my son is a Colts fan. So when he told me that they had made that deal, and he was laughing. And I said, if you get the right quarterback, it doesn't really matter what you give up, because if that guy is your leader for 10 years and he's tough back there, and Darnold is. Here's what I really think. Last year, before the season started, the NFL season started, I wrote a blog post, and in it I said, let's face it, most of us are probably going to want to spend more of our time Saturday afternoon watching these three kid quarterbacks play at Wyoming and USC and UCLA, and making our own judgments about who we think is the best fit. And even though, very early on it was clear that Allen was not the answer, because he's coming from too small a program and didn't have any talent around him. And I really felt bad for him because he was getting beaten up every week. He had no receivers open. When he would throw to one who was open, he dropped the ball. In fact, if you watch the pro day that he had out at Wyoming, he's throwing these 75 and 80-yard long passes to some guy who looked like you or me, circling around and around and around, trying to line it up so he could catch it. He didn't even have a pro caliber receiver to throw the ball to. So early on it was pretty clear he was not the guy. Darnold's big concern to me, and I think they made the right pick, but his big concern to me is taking the snap from center and dropping back into the pocket, because he didn't do that at USC. And you noted, I'm sure, in the reports out of camp that he was having a little trouble with that. Well, I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to not be solved. It probably will, but it's going to slow his development, because he not only has to learn how to do that, but he's got to learn how to drop back and still look at his receivers and not get locked on one receiver, but be able to, look at the second or the third option and do it really fast. And that's that's the benefit that the kid from Rosen had at UCLA. But I thought that Rosen too often threw into coverage. He's a gunslinger, and he's got a great arm, and he loves to show it. And that great game against, who was it, Texas or Texas Tech, where they came from way behind.
Texas A&M, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great second half, but he almost was picked off 3 times on those that he made.
He probably should have been picked off in at least 2 of those touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean that game is going to go down in UCLA history, and more credit to him, but that could just as easily have been snuffed out, pretty early on. So I just don't want to see him rush Darnold. I want him to have the time to learn the pro game, to learn how to read defenses, which he again never had to do at USC. How to make calls, because he wasn't calling plays; they were sending it into him. It's a very large jump from college to the pros. Clearly, McCown will not get through the season, because he never does physically. Something always happens, and he's 39 years old, so it could happen a lot earlier than any of us really wanted to. And so I'm also hoping that Bridgewater is healthy enough so that he can keep a lot of the pressure off of Darnold. Because I don't want to see the kid. Yeah, you got to take your lumps a little bit, but I don't want to see him get buried, and to lose his confidence to the point where they've got to rebuild it. Let's take it nice and easy, and maybe by the 10th or 11th or 12th game, he can come in and start to run the offense.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was going with next. Is when do you think he's gonna? When would you put him in there? I mean, are you comfortable with Bridgewater and his leg, or even McCown, who's going to be 30? I think he's 39 years old this year. I mean, are you kind of riding the McCown Bridgewater deal? And then I guess the other, there's kind of a 2 question is the other side is what if Darnold is the best quarterback in training camp? Or are you of the mindset, well, let's throw him out there, or do you think?
I mean, if he shows that he can do it, I mean, that's fine. But remember. I mean, I remember very well when Sanchez was there, and he had a very, very good preseason. But he wasn't expected, to spark the offense. He was there to just run the offense and not make mistakes. Well, they're not going to do that with Darnold. They're going to want him to come in and to, run the offense, and he's pretty good getting out of the pocket. He's going to have game action so that he really does learn how to protect the ball. He says he learned now how to do it, to keep 2 hands on the ball. But I think an interesting question, and you guys might want to have a shot at it as well, is obviously last year Bowles was under no pressure to bring in anybody as long as McCown was healthy. Well, is that the same situation this year, or is there a plan that by game X they're going to want McCown to start getting, a lot of reps?
Yeah, and Kyle, I'll defer to you because Kyle's been a bit quiet. But my personal opinion on that is I think you go with the best quarterback in camp, and assuming what you're saying is so let's say Darnold shows some signs, but you're right, offensive line's pretty shaky. Why would you send the guy out there to get pummeled and not play well? I am a firm believer that you'll learn more by playing, but you do learn some stuff sitting on the bench. I mean, he has things to work on. So I think he's going to learn a good portion of what it is to become a good quarterback on the sideline, but he's going to learn most of that in the field. But I think he should sit for a bit if he's not ready. If it's clear he's not ready, then he should sit for a bit. If Bridgewater's healthy, I'm pretty confident in him. I don't really want to see McCown again for a year, but he's probably, at this point, the most likely to start against Detroit. As far as, what is their plan going? I think they do. I think they know, look, we want Darnold to play this year. And I think they want him to play at least the second half of the season. So I think the first half, if Darnold's not ready. But it sounds like Bowles is going to give Darnold every chance to win, because it almost sounds like Bowles just wants to play him all 16 games. whatever happens, just let him play. But yeah, I think by the midway point, I think you'll see. I mean, unless McCown and Bridgewater are just playing horrible, but I mean, we've seen both quarterbacks. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think McCown will put up a slightly worse half season than he did last year. So probably like what you saw against. I'm trying to think of a random McCown game that he had, like against the Panthers, where he puts up a solid game or whatnot. But and if for some reason he gets hurt. Then I see maybe they bring in Darnold. If Bridgewater's still there, then maybe he gets a shot or whatnot. But yeah, in the scenario he's not ready, I still think he'll play this season. Now, Bob, before we move on, I did want to ask you about you mentioned the book about everybody but Joe Namath. Can you tell our listeners and I guess Kyle and I a little bit about that and what necessarily that story entails?
Well, I started doing research for it about 3 years ago, and I spoke with 36 of the 39 guys, players and coaches still alive from the Super Bowl team. And I did it because as a fan, even in the 60s, I was 16 years old on Super Bowl Sunday for Super Bowl III, and no, I didn't expect the Jets to win. I was hoping they weren't going to get embarrassed. But I always was curious because back then you could read the New York Times, the Daily News, the Post, the Mirror, the Newsday. There were a lot of papers in New York, and I would read them voraciously to find out everything I could about, the Jets. But all you heard about was from Joe, from Weeb Eubank, from Sonny Werblin, and occasionally from Matt Snell and Don Maynard. But you didn't hear too much from anybody else. And in fact, I even talked to Dave Anderson, who's still around, who was the Jets a beat reporter for the New York Times in those days, and he said his editors told him we're only interested in those other guys, in the big names. So I always wanted to know more about Matt and Emerson Boozer and George Sauer Jr. and Pete Lamons and Jerry Philbin and John Elliott. I mean, those guys were my heroes back in the late 60s. And so I decided one afternoon after watching Super Bowl III with my two sons that I was going to try to call every one of those other remaining Jets, talk to them, and get their story of what had happened that season and in the years around it. And the very first guy I called was the home of Curly Johnson. And you guys may not even know who Curly Johnson was, but he was the punter. He was also the backup tight end, the backup fullback, because in those days the rosters were when he started with the Titans in '62, the rosters were 33 or 34 guys. So if you were the punter, you were also a backup somewhere else, and if you were the place kicker, you were the backup somewhere else. So I called Curly Johnson's home, and he had a terrible case of CTE. So his wife answered the phone. And I told her what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a book about the other 39 guys on the team. And she said, I'll never forget, she yelled, "Hey, Curly, there's a guy on the phone who wants to talk to you about the Super Bowl." And I could hear him laughing. And she said to me, "My husband's been waiting 48 years for somebody to call him and ask him what happened that week." And that was very representative of what I found out about these other guys on the team, that they had great stories and great memories that they shared, and I'm very proud of a lot of the things they told me, and there was almost nothing that was off the record. I mean, everything I'll tell you one thing that's in the book. I won't tell you what the answer is, but the book tells you why Matt Snell is still mad at the Jets and doesn't want anything to do with it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
When you get that close to a guy, and I spent, I don't know, I've gotten to meet Matt, and we talk maybe every couple of months just to say hi and see what's going on. But I spent probably 12 or 15 hours talking to Matt, and at the very end, he said to me, "Do you want to know why I'm still mad at the Jets?" And I said, "Well, Matt, I know that every year the local papers send somebody out to knock on your door and ask you if you're still mad and why you're mad, and you never want to talk about it. And I don't want to infringe on that. I've deliberately not asked you because I figure if you want to tell me, you'll tell me. But if you don't, I'm not going to put you in a difficult position. And besides, I enjoy talking to you, and I don't want you to be mad at me. And he said, well, let me tell you why. And he told me why. So, I mean, that's the kind of relationship that I was able to build. Larry Grantham, rest his soul, he and I became great telephone friends. We talked on the phone just about every week. And I'll tell you something. I thought I was a pretty good football fan, but boy, did he teach me about defense and how defense is played. And he was in the scorecard. He was a 205, 210 right side linebacker. The reality was he played at 195, and by the end of the year he was at 178. But he was as pure a tackler as you'll find. If you go on to Google and just Google pictures of Larry Grantham playing, you will see pictures of him tackling people with his shoulder. And he was telling me, and I forget exactly what the explanation is, but if the guy is moving to his left, you've got to hit him with your right shoulder. And if the guy is moving to his right, you got to hit him with your left shoulder. I mean, that's the kind of detail he got into with me. I'll give you another tip. And I'm not going to go into great detail, but the Jets figured something out on the field at the Orange Bowl, that Super Bowl afternoon. And Grantham, validated it to me, and so did Billy Baird, who was the safety on the team. And John Schmidt is really the one that the center is the one who told me what really happened. And they had a tremendous advantage against the Colts from from a strategic and a tactical standpoint. They knew. Let me put it this way: they knew what was coming. They had an inkling because they had studied the game film and other things so carefully that you can watch at the end of the game. You can watch Larry Grantham as Unitas or Earl Morrill is calling a play, and Larry's fingers are moving and his feet are moving, and he knows exactly what's coming. And it's astounding, and you have to really – I probably have watched the Super Bowl film about 15 times, and you have to really watch it carefully to see little things like that. But, he confirmed to me what I really thought about, how they kind of knew what was coming. And so these are great guys. I mean, Pete Lamons was the tight end. He was a heck of a tight end. And the second or third time I got him on the phone, he answered the phone, and I said, hey, it's Bob Lederer. Can I speak to the greatest tight end in Jets history? And Pete Lamons didn't drop a beat, and he said, let me see if he's home. He's just a really funny guy. Philbin always was intense as a player. He is still intense, and he's he's 77 or 78 years old. Just a very tense guy. His son told me, let me tell you something, my dad still works out, and I've seen him. I've gotten to meet Jerry, and he does work out, and he says, and I wouldn't want to mess with him if I was, if I was walking down a dark alley with him. So these are just, obviously in Jet annals, these are immortals. These are guys that, we have to treasure. And the great thing is that this is the 50th anniversary, which is why I wrote the book. But the sad thing is that it's the 50th anniversary, and every one of these guys is over 70 years old. I mean, the youngest one is almost 71 years old. Jeez, and this is their last hurrah.
Yeah.
So, obviously I want to see another Super Bowl with the Jets. I'm 66, but it's really been such a pleasure and an honor to talk to these guys and to get to know them as people, as well as great football players. And they look at the book. I was very, very honored to feel. They look at the book as something they're going to be able to hand down to their families, generation after generation, who will know, what each of their great grandfathers or great great grandfathers did. There's a chapter devoted in the book to every single player on that team. And by the way, even though the book's not about Namath, he has the biggest chapter in the book.
Oh, did you get a chance to interview Namath?
No, he wanted to get paid.
I see.
He was the only guy who insisted on being paid to talk to me.
I mean, I guess that's Namath for you. Well, I'm serious. So is the book out yet, or is it?
No, it's in fact today I got what they call galleys, which are copies of the book without all the corrections made that I can pass on to people to read it and to perhaps give us a positive quote for the back of the book. The book is due to be out September 11th. What a day they picked for that. But it's due out September 11th, and it is on pre-order. You can get it from Amazon or Barnes & Noble or a lot of others. In fact, we even have a website that we built, for Jet fans to look and see what the book is about and to give a little teaser about the content, and it's beyondbroadwayjoe.com.
That sounds awesome. Bob, I'm not just saying this because you're on the show, but I'll definitely check that out. That sounds like a really interesting book. So thank you so much for calling in. Before we let you go, I think the one thing that when you're talking that kind of sparked in my head is, so we run our podcast on turnonthejets.com, and one of the and I should put you in contact with him just because I think it'd be a kind of an interesting duo, is one of the people we run the podcast, or is in our podcast network. His name's Scott Mason. He runs a Jets history podcast.
I've talked to Scott. Yeah. He said he wanted me to help him get some of the players on. And
look at Scott. Scott working the angles immediately.
Well, he told me. I haven't really listened to most of these, and he told me that he regularly will bring on a player to talk about the 1978 season and go through it, game by game. And he asked me to do it with some of these Jet players. And I said, the only problem is you got to remember, the average guy's like 75 years old, and he'll remember some highlights of that season, but he isn't going to remember, the seventh game against Houston, unless he did something that day that, that is completely memorable to him. So it's a little bit different, but it was an amazing season in a lot of different ways because, and again, the book is not really about Namath, but you can't ignore him. What I actually ended up doing with the book is I made him the fulcrum of the book and said, look, fact is he was the guy that made the difference. He was, the guy that was the difference maker. Al Atkinson said to me he said, the end of my chapter that you write, I want you to quote me as saying, never forget that we won because of Joe Namath. And so I wrote a chapter about Joe, and it's basically a conglomeration of things that most people have never probably heard or read about Joe, but that are, really interesting. And as one example, he did an interview with Playboy about 4 months after the Super Bowl game. And believe me, in those days, Playboy was really big. And he let it all hang out in that interview. And I liberally quoted a bunch of things that he had to say in that interview. And I found other things here and there where, he had said things or people had said things about him that I didn't know. And so, we have a lot of information, in his chapter about him. But at the end of his chapter, we make the point that in the locker room after Super Bowl III, Sal Marciano, who was working for Channel 2 at the time, came up to him and says, hey, Joe, you're the king of the hill. How does it feel? And Namath said, no, we're the king of the hill. We've got the team. And Namath, according to it, the players, has always, made it very clear to them that he realizes he couldn't have won without them. And so the end of his chapter makes that point, that he realized it. He's never really been given the chance, I don't think, to expand on that because, sound bites are 15 or 20 seconds long, and they're all about Joe, tell us about this and tell us about that, not tell us about your teammates. And this book, I think, kind of sets the record straight about, without necessarily quoting Joe, because he didn't give me a lot, but through other people who knew what was going on, saying, hey, don't think for a second that Joe Namath didn't love Winston Hill. And, in fact, there was a very close relationship there. And John Schmidt had a great quote. John Schmidt, again, was the center, for those of you who don't know. And he said, Bob, Joe and I were really close. And I said, yeah, I know. I've seen pictures. He says, yeah, I picked him up off the ground a lot of times and called timeouts when his eyes were rolling in the back of his head. And he said to me, a guy has his hands between your legs for 10 years, and you really get pretty close to each other.
Well, Bob, your book sounds absolutely amazing. I'm really looking forward to checking it out. So September 2018, it was beyondbroadwayjoe.com, correct?
Yep. And let me know if you'd like me to have me on as we get closer to the season.
Yeah, definitely. We'd love to help you promote this book. Sounds like a really cool opportunity. You also dropped some fire about the Jets playing nearly 50 years later. So, Bob, thank you so much for joining. Really quickly, do you have I believe I found your Twitter, but I just want to make sure it's correct. Do you have a Twitter where our listeners can give you a follow?
It's, I think it's Bob F. like Frank Lederer, Lederer.
All right. Well, we'll make sure to tweet that out. Bob, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was awesome to have you.
Go check out. Please check out BeyondBroadwayJoe.com. I think you'll enjoy just looking at that, and you'll have a great idea about what's going on with the book and other things.
All right. Well, we'll tweet that out. Bob, thank you so much, man.
Hey, take good care of yourself.
Will do. That was actually really interesting, and that was not planned at all. I let him talk because look, we're what are we, mid-May, talking about nothing, and he brought on some pretty interesting anecdotes there, talking about the 1968 Jets, and that was one of the cooler calls we've had on the show. But yeah, we'll definitely try to have him on when it gets closer to the due, and we can closer to the book, and we can have some questions and whatnot to ask him. But all right, well, we'll keep moving with the callers. We have a few more, and then we'll get out of here. Kyle, remember when you said you wanted to do a 20-minute show? We're now at an hour and 27. We're going to go next to Ryan. We have 3 more callers, Ryan, David, and Scott, so we'll go with Ryan.
All right, running point
first. So, Ryan, you're on the line, man. How's it going?
Guys, what's up? How we doing? That was a great call Bob had. That was really fascinating.
Yeah. I think we have something that we can sell for this episode.
All right, well, Ryan, I guess we'll just keep talking about. We'll go back to the 2018 Jets. Hey, Kyle, remember when you said you were going to run this call? Oh, that was a good time.
Ryan did not react to that joke whatsoever. I was just, he kind of just took that one.
I told Kyle, hey, you can run, Ryan's call and kind of talk. I'll try, whatever. But Kyle just did not. I guess Kyle wasn't on it. Ryan, well, we'll go back to what we were originally talking about. A little bit farther back, and Joe Caparoso's top 12. Ryan, I wanted to get your thoughts on what your top 5 Jets, top 10 Jets look like on this team, just where you see those guys falling.
Well, first I'll say, Kyle, that I don't know how you or the other guy had Terrell Pryor on your top 5. He might not even be the top 3 receiver on this team. I think Pryor's stats were also inflated during that 16 season, but I do think he'll make it as the number 4 receiver, but my top 5 for the Jets, I'd go Leonard Williams 1, Robbie Anderson 2. Yeah, I'm very high on Anderson. I just think out of all the receivers, and I like Enunwa too, but Enunwa's only had the 2016 season. Robbie, even the year before, when Fitzpatrick couldn't hit him, he was open almost, so many times. So I just think he's the most proven receiver outside of Curse, but I think he's the best playmaking receiver on this team right now. And for number 3, I'd go Jamal Adams. 4, I'd go Tremaine Johnson. And 5, I'd probably go Marcus May.
I don't have a problem with Robbie. I love him as a player. I think he's a very good wide receiver. I think the Jets are blessed with 3 or 4 receivers who could be number 1s for a lot of teams. It's just that I'm not giving Robbie the benefit of the doubt that he is a number 1 receiver when he still struggles being a receiver in exception to 4 or 5 routes. I mean, I still don't trust Robbie Anderson over the middle. That's just me, because we saw it still struggles last year. There was improvement, but there were still struggles last year. Particularly, I know the Atlanta game in the rain, it wasn't a particularly great example for that, but we also saw it in the Carolina game. He also made some great catches in that one on vertical routes. Point made. Robbie Anderson, good receiver, very good receiver, very great threat. You have to plan for him. But I'm not throwing to him when I need 10 yards in the middle of the field. I'm throwing to him when I have the green light on second down. I'd rather have Quincy Enunwa or Terrell Pryor or Jermaine Kearse, a bigger body, who could also run vertical routes and do the same thing Robbie does. Maybe a little less productive there, but overall better. So I love Robbie. I love Quincy. I love Jermaine. I love Terrell. I just think Terrell overall is the most talented and could have the best season this year.
I do think that's a fair point, especially if it's only 10 yards and, Anderson's probably not your guy. But I do think you're overrating Pryor a little bit. In that situation, I've had no problem going to Kearse or Enunwa, but Pryor, for me, outside of 2016, he hasn't proven anything. Last year was a total flop, but that was due to injury. I did see his ankle picture. And I'm not wishing anything against. I like Pryor. I'm just trying to set realistic standards, and I don't think he'll be on the field as much as the other three guys.
No, that's fair. Let's talk about the other weapons on the team, specifically the tight end position. How do you think that's going to pan out for the Jets throughout training camp? And what's your predictions?
I think probably they'll keep 3. I kind of already penciled in Tomlinson as a lock, just because he's the best blocker out of them all. Herndon will be a lock, just he's a 4th-round pick. He does some good things on the bubble screens. He's kind of like the short-range tight end. It's kind of like we used Austin Jenkins there a lot last year. Everything to him is mostly short. I'm guessing that'll be more Herndon's play, this year. But Herndon has the ability to, do things with the ball in his hand that Jenkins really wasn't able to. And I'm hoping Leggett will become that kind of, the guy that runs up the seams route, the guy who takes it, if we need like a 15, 20-yard pass up the middle. I'm hoping that can be Leggett.
Yeah. Do you see any role for a guy like Bucky Hodges that we picked up earlier this offseason?
I'm interested for him. I liked him a year ago. He is really, slim, skinny for a tight end. I remember him having a pretty good vertical, but it is going to be tough for him to stick realistically because you also have the other guy from Miami, the Clive Walford we picked up from Oakland. So I think Walford probably has a better chance than Hodges to make this team.
What do you see production-wise from the tight ends this year?
I'm not expecting anything fantastic. I think it'll be. Are you talking about like as a whole or just like one person?
Whatever you want.
I'll just go as a whole unit because I'm not really sure, who's going to be the dominant, guy with the most snaps. I think it'll be okay. It won't be anything to, brag about. Probably somewhere between 50 to 70 catches, most likely 50 to 60, and probably like maybe 600 yards, 700 yards all combined. It's kind of low, but I am kind of expecting, the running backs to get a decent amount of catches, and like you said before, we have 4 capable wide receivers beating, kind of any defense. So I'm expecting the wide receivers to be, the most our best options out there.
Okay. Let's talk about the offensive line, particularly depth. We picked up a guy in Antonio Garcia this week who, I guess last draft was considered 2nd or 3rd best tackle. What are your thoughts on that pickup and the overall depth of the offensive line?
Yeah, so I was actually happy we got Garcia. What I didn't know is the Jets actually had him in for a pre-draft visit in 2017. So, and as you know, this year we actually drafted most had in for a visit this year. We drafted in this year's draft class. So that's obviously a big thing for the Jets. They obviously must have liked him. I also did like him coming out a year ago. I thought he was a very good pass blocker. I actually went back and watched the Ohio State game and the Clemson game after we picked him up just to see. And he is very smooth. He definitely could be a future tackle for us, but he definitely has to gain weight, and we have to see how he does with the new added weight to him because he's a little bit light. And I know ever since he was, what was the problem? He had a clot right in his throat. It was a weird addition last year. So in his lung, yeah. So he made his fall last year, and I heard that he actually lost somewhere between 40. I don't know if that's true. So he's definitely not going to be a one starter, but it's definitely someone to work with. And if he gets it all together with the weight, he could be a future swing tackle, or maybe even your left tackle if we get that lucky. But I do like him as depth, and it's definitely worth the shot.
Yeah, I agree. Ben, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think as far as Garcia goes, I mean, look, the Jets' offensive line is if everybody's healthy, pretty average. I mean, Carpenter and Winters did not have great years last year, but for the most part, they're probably the strength of your offensive line. Long, when healthy, is pretty solid. I mean, I probably would have preferred a guy like Jensen, but I'll take Long. I like Shell a lot. He's actually, if you look at his PFF grade, he's consistently grades pretty well there, specifically in pass blocking. He needs to improve on run blocking. And then Kelvin Beachum, who we had in the show last year, pretty solid left tackle. So all around the board, the Jets' offensive line right now, as it stands, is pretty average. But where the problems are comes injuries. Every guy I just mentioned, I believe outside of Brandon Shaw, but Brandon Shaw might be included in that, has missed a game. I mean, Winters and Carpenter struggled through injuries last year. I mean, I think they played the majority of the games, but they were both pretty hurt badly. Long has been on again, off again on the field. Beachum is only 2 years removed from a torn ACL, or 2 or 3 years removed from a torn ACL. I think Shell's probably the most durable out of the group. So I think adding depth to the offensive line had to be a big key point. Because think about it. When is Sam Darnold going to play this year? Even if he doesn't play at the start of the year, he's going to play at some point this year. And it's more likely that he'll play towards the end of the year if he doesn't play at the beginning to start with. But towards the end of the year, that's when the wear and tear on the offensive line is going to kick in. You're going to have a few guys who are playing through injuries or maybe aren't on the field at all. So you're going to need your depth to step up. And if your line's going down, I mean, who's stepping up? Are you trusting Dakota Dozier to step up and be a starting offensive guard? Are you trusting Ben Ajalana, Travis Swanson? So you need to add more guys that you're comfortable sliding in. A guy like Antonio Garcia, if he's healthy, he's a very solid addition, and this could arguably be a starter. So I'm a big fan of the addition.
All right. Ryan, any thoughts before we let you go, buddy?
No, that's it, guys. Thank you for having me on. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks for being on.
You too, man.
All right. And we're going to go on to... This is going to be interesting, Ben. You know that, right?
I'm going to let you handle this. I'm kind of just interested to watch how this is going to go.
Yeah,
you can give a bit of an intro before for listeners who might not know.
Yeah. How do I phrase this one? Yeah, I think it's safe. I think it's safer if you do it.
All right. So a while back on the Jet Take History, we had a producer on the show by the name of Gang Green David. He is on the line tonight. I called in. Not going to lie, the breakup was a bit messy between Kyle and David. David's a pretty nice guy. Kyle's not a nice guy. But, we've, for the most part, I've stayed in touch with David. He's pretty nice. We're all still Jets fans and whatnot. Anyways, I did not know, though, David is calling in tonight to talk some Jets, bury the hatchet. So, Gang Green David, you are on the line.
Sorry.
And Kyle, I guess I will let you take over. Please, for the love of God, be nice.
What's up, boys? I'm back.
David.
Great to be back.
Well, David, you've missed a lot in your absence.
What's up?
You've missed a lot in your absence.
I know. It has been a lot. I mean, I started college. Things have changed, man, but things have also changed in Jets football era, man. What's on your mind, guys? What are you thinking of Sam Darnold?
Hold it together, Kyle.
Ben, you want to...
I'm a big fan of Sam Darnold. I mean, obviously, I think Rosen was my number one, but I said, between Mayfield, Rosen, and Darnold, I didn't really have – it wasn't like there was one guy separating each other from the pack. I mean, I preferred Rosen the most, but I really said if you get one of those guys, I'm going to be happy. The Jets found a way to get the guy who's the consensus number one guy in the draft from the majority of teams in the NFL, and clearly after reading that Albert Breer article, the number one guy for them. So I'm really happy about it. I'm happy to see him in Bates' system, and I'm happy to see him flourish with this young team. Kyle?
I'm very excited to have a franchise quarterback. It's simple as that. I don't think there needs to be any more analysis.
Well, I got you, man. But, my question to you guys is this. With the quarterback competition we have going into training camp, because we now have Darnold, we have McCown, and we have Bridgewater on the roster, and we have Christian Hackenberg.
Yes.
How do you see Christian Hackenberg?
David, were you a fan of Christian Hackenberg? I'm trying to remember.
Was I a fan of Christian Hackenberg?
Yeah.
No, I after that last preseason, I couldn't take it anymore. But he's going to end up going into training camp with the team, and they're going to get on the reps. But what do you guys think? How do you think Hackenberg plays a role into training camp this year?
Body bag.
What'd you say?
He'll be a body bag.
A body guy. Oh, Ben, what are your thoughts, man?
I agree with. So David, he was saying he's going to be a body bag, meaning he's going to be dead. He's going to be cut. Yeah,
I know what you meant.
I could see a scenario where the Jets can trade Bridgewater, and in that scenario, I could potentially see them keeping Hackenberg. But outside of that, if Bridgewater's healthy, and if he's on the team, he's better quarterback than Christian Hackenberg. There's no reason to keep Hackenberg because you already have your quarterback in the future. But if one, Bridgewater's not healthy, or two, you're able to get something for Bridgewater, or I guess three, one of the quarterbacks goes down with some major injury in preseason. Outside of that, I think Hackenberg's gone. If everything plays like it should play out, Hackenberg's going to be a dead guy walking.
I mean, originally I want Hackenberg to be gone, in my opinion, but because of this quarterback competition. But there are a lot of unknowns, especially with McCown and Bridgewater, because you don't even know what Bridgewater's going to do come training camp in regards to his injury, whether it's going to impact or if he's going to end up struggling. So I think Hackenberg is more or less a little bit of a safe bet. But personally, I like Bridgewater better than Christian Hackenberg. I think Hackenberg is absolutely terrible and garbage and erratic.
Yeah, well, David, I agree. I mean, obviously, Christian Hackenberg is a sore subject for most Jets fans, but switching tones to a little bit of a lighter subject. And it's been and it's been something that we've been kind of talking about. Joe Caparoso released his top 12 Jets going into 2018. What is your top 5, or maybe your top 10 if you have it, but just your kind of general top 5? What is that looking like as far as your top 5 Jets for this season?
Well, I mean, I don't know about. I'll give you the top 5 Jets that I'm most excited to see this season.
This is waffling right here. Just give us top 5.
What?
Oh, no.
Come on, man. Okay, so I'm going to give you the top 5 Jets I'm excited to see this season. So, number 1, I'm actually excited to see Quincy Nunwa, because this guy is I think in my mind, is going to be a very resilient player. He's coming off a serious injury. He was definitely going into his prime, and I think that he's a guy that you could even build around in the future, assuming that we sign the guy. But I'm definitely excited to see what he brings to the table, especially since now we have guys like Terrell Pryor, Jermaine Kearse, Robbie Anderson. You could definitely potentially put him back into that H-back role. So I would like to see Quincy Nunwa return to his former self, and I'm optimistic about that. Number 2 is actually going to be Jamal Adams, because I mentioned this with you guys before during last year's.
Just want to put that out there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mentioned with you guys during last year's pre-draft analysis that Jamal Adams was the top guy on my draft board, and I was somewhat optimistic that the Jets are going to get him, and he's on the team now. I definitely think he made an impact. I think he's proven what he was worth. So I definitely think now with guys like Jermaine Johnson and Morris Claiborne going to the number 2 corner spot, I definitely see him making a much bigger impact. Number 3, I'm going to say Leonard Williams, because Leonard Williams is developing into a leader and potentially a franchise cornerstone. He's playing for a contract this year, so I definitely think that he's going to take his role as a leader and he's going to step up as a Jet, especially since he's the only one left out of the big 4 that we had, meaning Muhammad Wilkerson, who's gone, Snacks, who's gone, and who else is there? Oh, and Sheldon Richardson. He's the only one that's left. Number 4 is actually going to be Marcus May. I personally like what Marcus May brings to the table. I think he's a great physical safety, great ball hawk, and I think he's going to bounce back
this year in regards to interceptions. I think he's going to pick off more passes this year, and I definitely think that he's going to provide a bigger contribution in regards to secondary help. And number 5, I wish I could say Sam Darnold, but he's an unknown if he's going to play this year. So I'm going to say Robbie Anderson, because Robbie Anderson, despite everything that's happened in the offseason, he's a great player. He's flashy. He has great hands. He was put into a role he was not expected to play this year. And honestly, I think with this new group of receivers, if you potentially put him in the slot and you put him up against many of these slot corners, I think he's going to absolutely toast them. And I think he's going to be another great player.
I like it. All right, David, I have 2 questions for you before we get off. We're heading into the off season, or into the training camp, part of the off season. I want one surprise guy that is going to make the roster that not a lot of people are talking about, and then one guy who's going to be a surprise cut.
A surprise cut, I think, is potential. That's a tough one. I think a surprise cut would be someone like Lorenzo Malden, because while he is coming off an injury, I definitely think that he still has a lot to prove. He did struggle in 2016 because, unfortunately, he gained the weight, but I definitely think that he has a lot of flashes. And to me, I think he would be a surprise cut if you can't give him a chance to see what he can prove coming off that injury of his. A surprise guy to make the roster, however, that's a good question, but I'm actually going to say Jordan Leggett, because with this tight end competition that we have now on the roster with Clive Walford, Bucky Hodges, Tomlinson, I think Leggett coming off an injury, he's definitely going to have something to prove. And with this competition, it would definitely be surprising to see if he makes the roster, especially with the depth that we have at tight end. And we'll find out in training camp, see how many reps he gets, especially with the first team, see if he makes the roster or not.
All right, well, David, it was a pleasure, and it was certainly an interesting call having you call in. I'm glad you and Kyle were able to somewhat bury the hatchet, because you're obviously a fun caller to have on. So, David, for those who don't know, just please shout out your Twitter and your YouTube, so our listeners can subscribe or follow.
All right, so you guys can follow me on Twitter at GangreneDavid1. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel known as Gangrene David. I pretty much break down the Jets. I do my own call-ins. I do the Gangrene David call-in every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. You can call into that tomorrow night. I'd love to talk Jets with you guys. I have plenty of callers on that as well. I also do game day vlogs. I go to games sometimes, or I watch from wherever. I watch from my house. I watch from a restaurant. I was even watching the draft of Buffalo Wild Wings this year, so that was a lot of fun. But definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you guys for having me on. It was great talking football with you guys again. And Kyle, I think I'd like to have a little talk with you, man. Talk to you guys next time.
All right, good having you on, man. All right, that was Gangrene David. Kyle, anything you'd like to say?
Let's go to Scott.
Boy. Scott Mason, everybody, from the Play Like a Jet podcast. Scott,
I swear to God, if this is more than 20 minutes, I'm going to be pissed.
Well, that's just a great way to greet one of our callers. Scott, how's it going, man?
I love you too, Kyle. By the way, some bad blood there still apparently, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't really know what that's about, but to be honest, I don't really care, so no problems.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, right, boys, what's going on tonight? We're talking 12. This guy, Kyle. Let me give you a little lesson on how to do a show and have show etiquette. You don't immediately start barking stuff at the callers, my man.
Uh-oh. I can't make the joke I was gonna make. That was gonna be a really tasteless joke.
Well, I mean, that would be par for the course now, wouldn't it? So yeah. What's going on tonight, boys? Top 12? We're talking about Joe's top 12?
Yes.
Basically.
Yes, Kyle, can you handle this for a few minutes? I have something I actually have to go do for like 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
All right. I guess friends over.
So what's going on, Kyle? We haven't talked in a while. How's everything been?
There's a lot going on in life, man. There really is.
Everything cool?
Yeah, I guess.
You guys all right? Nobody's killing each other? You're going to survive the week?
Some people might not, but...
Well, they don't call you Body Bagger Fahey for nothing, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately it's my own family this time, so... Yeah.
Oh, yikes. All right. Well, you know what? we will not talk about that. What's going on now? What do you have?
I just shook you to your core, didn't I?
No, I was just going to say I don't want to bring your family issues onto the air, so I'll let it lie where it is.
I literally left for like what? I was like 45 seconds. Came back, Kyle, no jokes. I came back and you guys are talking about family issues. Scott, I don't know necessarily what happened.
You son of a bitch. I was drinking water. I almost just spit my water over my laptop.
We'll hop right into it. Joe Caparoso's top 12. Scott, I want to hear your top 10 Jets in this team. We'll debate it. Just start it off.
First of all, I forget what his name is, Palace or whatever. That dude needs to lay off whatever it is he's taking because I don't know what the hell he's talking about. And Kyle, I love you, buddy. You're my boy, but Terrell Pryor is he's not even the fourth best receiver on the team, let alone fourth best player. You're out of your damn mind. As far as the top players, I mean, it's tricky. Are we doing top, like, as of this moment? Are we doing, like, top 12? I'm not counting the rookies. But are we talking about, like, top 12 going forward? Because the only guy on this team, for me, and again, not counting the rookies, that I look at and see as a potential all-pro, like talking, like, top 5 at his position in the league, is Adams. So if we're talking about who is the most talented guy on the team, I think he's probably number 1. Then after that, you know, you'd have to say that your next guys in line would probably be Leonard Williams and Tremaine Johnson in whichever order you wanted to put them. And after that, I mean, there's just a lot of just guys that are there, really, because you can't rate the rookies. I guess Marcus May, I don't think he was anywhere near as good as people seem to think he was in his rookie year. He was fine, but there were a lot of plays where he actually got cooked, and the quarterback didn't throw at him. So I think that May, he's going to have to he had a decent rookie year, but he's going to have to continue his progress in year number 2. I don't think he was better than Adams. There's a lot of people that think he was better than Adams last year. I don't think that's the case at all. But everybody else, I mean, there's some guys there that are solid. I like Robbie Anderson, but let's see what he does now this year with a full season. And, well, let's be honest, he's got this other stuff hanging over him, so let's see if he can behave himself going forward. But I think
Did you hear me, or did you just not get the joke?
No, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I said so did the cop's wife.
Ah, gotcha. All right, well, there you go. That joke is 6 months old, I guess. But the thing with Anderson.
So are the kids.
Again, I didn't hear. So are the kids. Yeah. Ben, how do you do this every week? I don't know.
I don't know, and I don't think I get nearly enough credit for dealing with this every week, Scott. But I don't know what I'd do without you calling in and closing out the shows, because right around now I just get really tired.
Dude, you get plenty of credit from me. And again, Kyle, I love you, but sometimes, man, you know, the people in our own family are the ones that can give you a hard enough time. But yeah, no. So I think as far as the receivers go, you have 2 proven receivers that are. I mean, again, Anun was coming off of injury, so we'll see there. But I think Anderson and Anun will have to be in the mix there in that top 10 discussion. Jermaine Kearse, I don't know, man. See, again, I'd have to sit down and really do a thorough look. But just off the top of my head, I would say you might put Jamal Adams at the top of the list, followed by Tremaine Johnson, Leonard Williams, and then Robbie Anderson and Quincy Anunua in whatever order. And then after that, it's just kind of a matter of little pieces here and there, and who do you like, who's going to bounce back or whatever. I mean, I like Spencer Long. You were talking about him before. I'd have to think about exactly how he stacks up with the rest of these guys. But Terrell Pryor, man, I don't know what people are expecting from this guy. They're at it. And Kyle, did you say he's a top 10 receiver in the league when healthy?
Borderline top 10, yes.
Yeah, borderline. If the border is like 50, you're out of your mind. He's nowhere close to top 10. What are you talking about?
You just forget that Terrell Pryor dominated most of that year.
I wouldn't say
he had 1,000 yards flat and 4 touchdowns. He had a really nice year, and he cooked Revis for sure. But he also was erratic.
Because I think that one of the few times you saw Terrell Pryor actually play a full game was against the Jets, and that was probably his best game of his career. And I think that's skewing it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 6'4". I mean, he has some cool highlights and whatnot. But let's not kid ourselves. He's not a borderline top 10 receiver, Kyle.
And your best bet is
after that year did not even say that themselves.
No, and the thing
also had a parade for 0-16, so it's Browns.
Hey, listen, you show some respect to Jeff Lloyd. All right.
I was about to say Jeff Lloyd is the king of Browns fandom. All right, there should be a sign there.
Is he actually a Browns fan, or is he? I thought he.
No, he just does Locked On Browns.
No, he is now. He's a Brown. He roots for both teams.
So
he is a Jets fan doing a Browns podcast.
So top 10 receiver. Played 9 games last year. Only was good enough to start 2.
He was terrible last year.
And played
20 receptions,
the entire year.
240 yards and a touchdown. Okay, so let's go to his best season. As Scott said, so he plays all 16 games. Yeah, I mean, he had a pretty good year. But 77 catches, so didn't get 100. Got 1,000 yards. That's pretty good. Only 4 touchdowns, and Nunwell had more. Anderson had more last year. Played
with Cody Kessler and Josh McCown. A much worse Josh McCown.
And so did Robbie Anderson last year. He played with Josh McCown and Bryce Petty.
Yeah.
Much worse.
And Nunwell played with a freaking Ryan Fitzpatrick and Bryce Petty.
I'd take that over Cody Kessler.
All right. Listen, the bottom line with that is that Terrell Pryor...
Kyle, you were a Cody Kessler fan, and I remember that.
No, shut up. I was hoping you wouldn't remember that. I was hoping you wouldn't remember that.
Yeah. I remember you talking up Cody Kessler because you helped design Travis Wingfield's website, and Travis Wingfield's analytics on Cody Kessler had him as a pretty good quarterback, and you were telling me, oh, yeah, it's good. Cody Kessler's a really good quarterback. Yeah.
Well, there you go. But Terrell Pryor, his best-case scenario is, like you said, Ben, he's big and fast. He can run, but if he's healthy. But he's got a case of the dropsies. He's not a route runner. I mean, essentially, he's a lot like Robbie in some ways if he's at his best. But I think the thing that makes Robbie different is, I was actually talking to Joe Blewett about this the other night. Robbie Anderson, listen, this is the deal. When you're a wide receiver, if you have consistent hands and speed, I mean, there's just no defense for it. Now, Robbie Anderson's never going to be like Antonio Brown or one of the tippy-top elite receivers in the league, right? But you are dealing with a guy who, look, what defensive back is keeping up with him? We saw it last year. So, look, if Terrell Pryor's healthy and maybe he can get open a little bit in similar ways, but he's very one-dimensional, Pryor, and unlike Anderson's hands really improved from year 1 to year 2. Pryor had say that again?
Same with the noon one from 2015 to 2016. I just remember that was the biggest take I had from his.
Absolutely. No, 100%, Ben. You're 100% right about that. Both guys, their hands improved quite a bit. And Quincy is really a lot more well-rounded because he can run routes and he can block, and he's faster than people give him credit for, too, by the way. But I think that with Anderson, he's a guy that he improved his hands. Terrell Pryor never did. And like you said, Ben, he was a disaster in D.C. last year. Now, granted, he was hurt for part of it, but he played poorly even when healthy. He was causing problems in the locker room. He had to apologize to his teammates. So you said it best, Ben. He's a nice low-risk, high-reward type guy, but that's really all that people should expect. And anybody that's expecting him to be the best receiver on this team, I'll be honest with you, it wouldn't shock me in the least if he gets outplayed by Chad Hansen and passed on the depth chart at some point. So let's not get too crazy about Terrell Pryor. But, Ben, what do you think? I mean, do you think it's fair to say that putting aside the guys that were just drafted, you could make a case that Adams is the best building block that they have realistically?
Yeah, I think there's a few different discussions. If you're going as far as building blocks, I think Adams got to be number one. If you're going building blocks, you go building blocks. You go Darnold 1, Adams 2.
Well,
probably Williams,
not counting the rookies.
I know. You have I already said Williams. You have May, Anderson. I mean, the Jets have actually some nice building blocks. But I mean, off of production, I mean, May was better in coverage and Adams was better in the run game.
I don't know that May was necessarily better in coverage. If you go back and look at the film, he got cooked a lot on plays where quarterbacks didn't go his way.
I think his 2 interceptions are probably skewing some of it, but
right.
I think May was the safer tackler, but because Adams would sometimes go low and miss, but Adams was around the ball more and made more tackles. So I don't know. I can see the argument for maybe, but I mean, Scott, my response to that would be Adams got cooked equally as much as they're rookies. I mean, and to be fair, they didn't. It's not like they were getting cooked every play. They played pretty well. I'm saying they did get cooked because they were rookies and whatnot. Look, I think
Adams certainly did. I think. Outside, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying I think both May and Adams are tremendous building blocks for the Jets, and I think they're going to be the starting safety duo for hopefully the next decade. I think that Adams has a higher ceiling, but right now, I mean, they're probably playing at a comparable level. I mean, the one thing that separates Adams, and this is probably would go to the argument for Adams being slightly better, would be just his energy around the ball. I mean, like he's literally around every play. So that would be what I would get. I mean, you can ignore the culture change and whatnot, but I would say that literally every play, whether it's a run play or pass play, Adams is there, and that's something. All right, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I actually think Adams was better by a reasonably decent amount. I think Adams' biggest problem was he got over-aggressive too much, and that's something that I think he's going to have to dial back. But I think May played fine, but May to me played – let me put it this way. With Adams, I thought you saw signs of a guy that could be an all-pro and glimpses, and I thought with May you saw a guy that more – could be a really nice, solid starting safety for a significant period of time. And for a second-round pick, that's pretty good. But I don't know. I think Adams outplayed him by a decent amount last year, and I think we saw a lot more, I guess you would say, flash plays out of Adams than we did out of May, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to know why it sounds like you're a little down on May.
I'm not down on May. I think it's just a reaction to.
He doesn't
I feel like Jet fans. Yes, exactly. I prefer June when it's not raining as much. That's right. Hey, listen. You take the good with the bad. No, I'm not down on May.
Like Gabrielle Union.
I do love Gabrielle Union, but no, in all your boy D Wade.
Oh,
your boy D Wade's a lucky guy.
Yeah,
I don't know, Kyle. Half the time I can't even hear you, so I'm just trying to follow along with your cut-ins and jokes. But with May, I think that it's a situation where maybe the fact that I think the fan base overrated him a little bit has made me push back. I'm not down on May. I just don't think he was as good as some of the fan base seems to think he was. That's all.
Interesting. All right, Scott, I'm going to give you the same question I gave David. I want one surprise player to make the team and one surprise player that's not going to make the team.
One surprise player to make the team. I guess it depends who we're counting as surprises, but I think that Flowers will probably make the team. I think he does enough things. Even though fullback is kind of a dead position in the NFL, I think he does enough things and brings enough to the table. He even could be like a hybrid tight end in some cases because he can catch passes too. So I could see him making the team. Surprise cut. It's a tough one. Off the top of my head, I mean, I'm not going to agree with this. Darryl Slater said Elijah McGuire when he came on to review rookie minicamp. So I'm not gonna say Elijah McGuire. I mean, I guess if Trenton Cannon outplays him, I guess it's not out of the question to see somebody like Bilal Powell get cut. I know that sounds insane, but if he gets outplayed, like if Cannon plays well, and Crowell I think is safe for sure. If McGuire shows something, the Jets may decide that they don't need Powell and his $4 or $5 million salary or wherever it is. So that could be a surprise cut. I mean, Pryor might even. Who the hell knows? Pryor could potentially even be a surprise cut. So, and Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, I don't even know how much of a surprise that would be, but that's definitely possible based on what I'm hearing about his legs. So, I think any of those guys could fall in that category.
Do you see Stewart making an impact at all?
Probably not, honestly. And I think the Jets, I feel like if they felt Stewart was going to make an impact at all, they wouldn't have gone out and gotten all these guys that are potential return men, like Roberts, like Cannon. They wouldn't have bothered to sign. Right, but I mean, like, think about all the moves they're making. That then they brought in Pryor. Like, there's a lot of depth at receiver and a lot of depth at the kick and punt return spots. And I'm not saying that means that he's a dead duck, but it definitely tells me that the Jets are not exactly super confident in him going forward.
Kyle, any last thoughts on Stewart before we get to Scott's plug?
No, because he has 2 minutes and 53 seconds to do so.
Oh, God. Okay, wait, Scott, let me get the music up. Hold on.
Yeah, all right, let's do it. Scott, you got to hit it on, like, the note. You can't start and then have it go, dun, dun. Like, you have to hit it when it goes into that.
All right,
I'll do my best. It'll help if you don't interrupt me every 2 seconds this time, Kyle.
I'm going to mute myself.
All right, time for Scott's hair plugs. Ready, and go.
All right, boys. This week on Turn on the Jets Digital, lots of great stuff. Connor Rogers had a brand new episode of Stick to the Jets. That's up right now at turnonthejets.com and iTunes. We got a special series going on right now with Joe Blewett. We're going through the 2017 film of Sam Darnold. We just got through the 5th game of the season. We did 3 games this week where Joe goes in depth on all the plays that are on his review. You can check out the video at Joe's Twitter, at JoeRB31, or turnonthejets.com, and make sure you listen along on the podcast. Those will drop on Tuesdays, and we will have the 3rd installment next week. Joe Caparoso dropped a bonus edition of the Turn on the Jets podcast this week that included his take on his own 12-player list that we were kind of touching on before. So that's available. And tomorrow, when this podcast drops, Joe's podcast, his normal podcast, will also drop, the Turn on the Jets podcast, and that will feature Brian Bassett, who is the founder of the Jets blog and also the former co-host of the Jets blog podcast with Corey Griffin. I had the opportunity to listen to it because I had to put it together and produce it for Joe, and it's a great conversation, so make sure you check it out when it drops tomorrow. Draft season's brand new with Dan Essien pinch hitting for Joe Malfa. They talk the evolution of Leonard Williams from USC college player to 4th-year Jets starter. So that's available right now, Dalvin and Dan Essien at iTunes and turnonthejets.com. And then on Friday, it's a brand new Play Like a Jet, featuring part 2 of our look at the 1998 season with one of the greatest nickelbacks in team history, and that, of course, is Ray Mickens. So everything available right now, turnonthejets.com, Turn on the Jets Digital, and also it is available on iTunes. So everything's there. Boys, as always, a pleasure.
Wow, he hit it under the time limit this time. All right, well, Scott.
Seconds remaining. That is the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Well, it's the dead of the off season, so I guess Scott, it was awesome having you on the show, man. You always were able to drive a wedge between Kyle and I, in a good and bad way, I guess. But
I've heard it's not hard to put a wedge in between you. Oh, there's the one.
And with that, Scott, thank you so much for listening. As he said, you can follow him on Twitter at PlayLikeAJet1. You can listen to his show at PlayLikeAJet. Just look it up wherever you listen to podcasts. Scott, thank you so much for calling in, man.
Thanks, boys. Always a pleasure. Ben, hang in there. Keep your head up. Kyle, I don't know what's going on, but I hope everything works out for you.
That was one way to say goodbye. I hope everything works out for you. Jeez. I think I got Scott in my corner, Kyle.
He was talking about my grandfather, but thanks, Ben.
Oh, I was going for that part, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, oh.
Now you feel like a dick.
I don't know what happened to your grandfather, but I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, me either.
Wait, the one with the Yankee jacket and the chain and sunglasses?
Yeah. Yeah, that one.
Huh.
My only one. So.
Damn. All right. On that somber note, thank you for listening to
to clarify, he's not dead. He's not dead, to clarify.
Oh, okay. He's fine. All right. Anyways, you can follow us at the Jet Take on Twitter or any other social media platform. You can listen to our, well, I guess not our Instagram. It got hacked, but it doesn't matter because there's a Turn on the Jets Instagram now that both Kyle and I post from. So you can go Turn on the Jets _IG. Go follow us there. That's all the Turn on the Jets guys post there. Or most of them, I guess. Make sure you follow that. We're trying to get our follows up. We just hit 700 today. Pretty rapid, just considering they just started the account. So follow Turn on the Jets _IG on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter at Ben W. Blessington. You can follow Kyle on Twitter at Kyle Fahey NFL. But if you want the best place for our combined shared Jet Takes, no pun intended, follow at the Jet Take on Twitter. And yeah, as I said, if you could go search the Jet Take on anywhere you listen to podcasts to find our show. Kyle, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think we made something out of nothing in the sense that there is really not much to talk about outside of hypotheticals for the next few weeks.
Like our future children.
I get wow. In the coming weeks, we know we're hitting the dead of the offseason, so we're trying to organize quite a few interviews for the next few episodes to try to make these episodes more interesting and whatnot. But again, thank you to all our callers. We had quite a few of them today, and they were all great. So yeah, that's where we're going to end the show. We'll leave you with the best chant in the National Football League. Everybody have a great week. Stay safe. Just remember, it's all great in the world of the New York Jets.
You say safe?
Stay safe.
From what?
I don't know. It's just
Thanos.
I was just like a thing to say, it
isn't like 4th of July or anything.
Use your dinner party reference from earlier. I don't think that was on when we were recording the show. But when somebody's driving, you say drive safe.
Okay. Yes, but that's
safe,
such a. It's like not 4th of July weekend or anything. It's like if you're drunk driving, that's your fault.
Hey. It's almost graduation weekend.
It is.
High school in a few weeks.
A few weeks. My graduation's Friday.
Oh, well, you guys are lucky. I have dead week next week and finals week after that, and then we're done. Done last day of man.
Finals next week.
Damn, you're done before me.
I do finish fast. So.
Okay. All right. That's where we're going to end it. Yeah. We'll leave you with the best chance in the National Football League. Everybody go Jets. Follow us at the Jet Take. Have a nice week and stay safe.
I might have mono. I'm not sure.
What was that? Was really your big announcement? You couldn't have anything Jets related?
I feel like it is.
Oh, God.